This is He Knows Everything, bringing you that heat and fire. We keeping the foot on the whoop on the Knicks. We keeping the foot on the whoop on the Knicks. Let's talk about it. All right.
Go ahead, he knows.
Larry Merchant picked Errol the True Spence to win the fight. Larry Merchant was disgusted by what he saw, his display. He basically was like, how is Terence Crawford going to deal with the level that Errol the True Spence is? The level of competition, the level of strength, the level of anger. I just don't see how he's gonna come over this. And then for me to sit there and watch the fight and see that it was a one-sided, lopsided display. Boxing has to do better. Boxing has to be better. You see, I got gloves on. The reason why I got gloves on is to showcase what Larry Merchant was feeling. Because Larry Merchant said there was suspect play, foul play. Let me say it again. No, let Larry Merchant say it again. So here Larry Merchant and here Larry Merchant. Motherfucking well. There was suspect play. There was foul play. This fight is great for the sport of boxing because it brings to you a 80s display of the Four Kings era. But it also revealed to you what is wrong with the sport of boxing. The sport got it right and then they got it wrong on the same night. That's what Larry Merchant said. Let me say it again. No, let Larry Merchant say it again. The sport got it right and they got it wrong at the same time. They got it right in the sense that they gave fight fans a big fight, a huge fight that basically gave a resuscitation, that basically gave a jolt to the sport. But it was also wrong for the sport of boxing because the right guy did not win. And not only did he not win, he didn't win in the way that you expected for him to win. You see, Larry Merchant said, I'm usually not wrong about these things when I make these picks on who I think is going to win the fight and who I believe is going to win the fight. I'm usually right about these things. I was right about Floyd Mayweather. I was right about Andre Ward. I was right about Sugar Ray Leonard, Marvin Hagler, Tommy Hitman Hearns, Roberto Duran. I was right about Muhammad Ali. I was right about a lot of these boxers and these legends that were displayed before you. I was right about Roy Jones Jr. in his prime of his career. I was right when I started to see slippage in him. I was right about Bernard Hopkins. But for me to not be right about Errol Spence, where was his durability? Where was his efficiency? Where was his sturdiness? These were the questions that Larry Merchant was asking. These are the questions that fight fans are asking. He said, I've never seen Errol Spence come into a fight and look like he was drugged. I mean, you had to be there. I mean, I was watching this from TV and I've covered the sport of boxing. I'm a 92-year-old man. I've covered the sport of boxing for so many years. You know, I recently retired so many years ago, but I was watching this and I was in utter disgust at the fact that one guy's just dominating another guy and the other guy is defenseless. Since when have you watched any of Errol Spence's fight? And I've seen plenty of his fights where he's ever been defenseless. I've seen him losing on the scorecards and then come back. But even in those moments, he was never defenseless. He was never not fighting a fundamental, technical, sound fight. This is why I picked him. Because between the two fighters, he's the technician artist. This is why I picked him. Because between the two fighters, he's the fundamental artist. This is why I picked him. Because between the two fighters, he is the more sound artist. And he gets out sound. Nobody's more sound than Errol Spence in the game of boxing. He gets out technical. Nobody's more technical than Errol Spence in boxing. He gets out fundamental. Nobody's more fundamental than Errol Spence in boxing. So if Terence Crawford had the athleticism, which he displayed, that's his advantage. But his advantage is not boxing. That would belong to Errol Spence. That's why a lot of people had it 50-50. You know, a lot of people felt this fight was that close. So the results of the fight, the way that the fight went about, should have reflected that. And the fact that it did not reflect that, it revealed to you that there was suspect and foul play. Now, I don't know what the suspect and the foul play is, but it was suspect and it was foul play nevertheless. Now, y'all got what Larry Merchant said. Now, He Knows Everything's going to explain what Larry Merchant really meant. See, he wanted to be very careful. He wanted to preference his words. He wanted to make sure he didn't say anything outlandish, outrageous. But at the same time, if you understand the sport of boxing, you understand the dark history of the sport of boxing, you understand the corruption behind the sport of boxing, you know he's basically saying loaded and padded gloves. You know that he's basically saying PED usage. You know that he's basically saying that Terence Crawford is a double cheater. See, this man was on snacks. He was eating them damn snacks. And for Larry Merchant to be technological savvy at 92 to say, you know, nowadays, these days, they call PED snacks. You put 2 and 2 together. Who you think he's talking about? He's talking about Victor Conte. Just go look up the guy. Look up Balco. Look up biogenesis. Look at the connections. Go look at how many athletes have been flagged, have been dishonored, have basically been a disgrace to their sport because of Victor Conte and his usage of doping. Terence Crawford is part of that. So really, is he undisputed legitimately? Let me say it again. Is he really undisputed 2 times legitimately? No, he's not. Because at the end of the day, he loaded and he padded the gloves. Yes, them motherfuckers had plaster in it. Them motherfuckers had rocks in it. And nobody cannot tell He Knows Everything anything else outside of that. Here's the caveat too. He was also on performance enhancement drug. Go look at his body. When has Terence Crawford physically ever been bigger than Errol Spence? Go look at the weigh-in. The man had a turtleback. Terence Crawford has never had a turtleback. Terence Crawford's always been lean. He's always been slim. You've always seen him with lean, slim muscles. All of a sudden, his muscle mass shows more bulk. All of a sudden, his muscle mass shows more mass. All of a sudden, his muscle mass shows more girth. All of a sudden, his muscle mass shows more than Errol Spence. It's more pronounced. Come on, man. And this nonsense with people saying Errol Spence need to go back with Blu-ray and all of this. That's nonsense. That has nothing to do with it. There's no level of personal trainer, regardless of who you have, that was going to save Errol Spence that night. Not with Terence Crawford cheating the way he cheated. Not with Terence Crawford doing what he did. This is why Bomac said they're going to move the goalpost, because Bomac knows exactly what was happening. These guys have no shame. They are spineless. They know what they did. And it's taking He Knows Everything to reveal this for what it is. More and more information is coming out. But not only did you have Jim Lampley, not only did you have Max Kellerman, but now you have Larry Merchant. These guys are 3 of the biggest boxing media pundits, boxing voices for years and years and years in this rich history of the sweet science. And they all were utterly disgusted by what they saw. So you have to ask yourself, isn't this a things that make you say, Isn't this a things that make you say, When it's all said and done, what you saw was an illusion. What you saw was a matrix. And what you saw was a fake fight. Because at the end of the day, boxing has to make money. Boxing had to revitalize itself. Boxing had to resuscitate itself. And boxing did just that. They were successful. But at what cost? One guy who has to look at himself in the mirror and know that he's a cheater, and another guy who was cheated. Let me say it again. One guy who has to look at himself in the mirror and know that he cheated, and another guy that is a cheater. That's the cold-hearted. That's the unadulterated. That's the cutthroat truth teller fashion. I keeps the foot on the whoop on the nicks. I keeps the foot on the whoop on the nicks. This is He Knows Everything. Check it out.